what's going on, my people? Thank you for tuning in, Profe Guy. So real quick, I want to do a video talking about Mexico, specifically discrimination in Mexico. Now, as a Black American, as a Black foreigner, you will experience discrimination at some point. Now, it's mostly out of ignorance. It's not really out of malice of the Mexican people. It's just that most Mexican people do not have any experience with Black people at all. So, what do they go by? They go by ignorance. Most Black people here in Mexico are passing through, are migrants, right? Of course, you have a lot of Afro-Mexicans that live along the Guerrero or Oaxaca coast. However, most Black people passing through Mexico are actually passing through, not as tourists, but as migrants going towards the U.S.-Mexican border. So, is there racism in Mexico? Of course there is at some level. I mean, there's racism everywhere, right? But I'm telling you, as a Black American, as a Black foreigner, you will experience discrimination here. But do not let that be your experience here in Mexico. It is what you make it. If you want it to be the biggest thing you experience here in Mexico, then it just will be. However, the discrimination is not as heavy as in some other places, I can tell you that. So you'll get through it and you'll be able to still continue to enjoy living and passing through Mexico. Now, I'm gonna give a short, brief story about what happened to me here in Mexico. So, I usually stay in the cities, right? I usually go to Mexico City if I'm not in Puebla, which is where I live. So, I was going to a small town between Mexico City and Puebla, which is called San Martin. In San Martin, there was a huge market. They also call these markets tianguis, where it's open once a week on Tuesday. And I just had to go there to check out the market, to check out the deals I can get at the market. So my wife and I, we went to the market. We had a good time in the market. I wouldn't go back because it's very unorganized. It wasn't really worth the trip. I mean, the markets that are here in Puebla are just as good, if not better. So we went to San Martin and we went to the market, had a decent time going through the market, looking at things, seeing what they had to offer. And after we were done with the market, it was time to come back to Puebla. Now, we took an Uber from Puebla early in the morning on Tuesday to actually get to San Martin, which was only about 45 minutes away. And that Uber ride was not expensive at all. We're talking about, I don't remember, but it wasn't expensive at all. However, on the way back, it was a little more expensive for Uber. However, there were no Ubers from San Martin going to Puebla. So we just thought, well, you know, I know there is the Estrella Roja bus line that goes from Puebla to San Martin and from San Martin to Puebla. How about we just get on the bus? So went to the bus station. Of course, my wife was a little ways back, waiting by the door, the entrance into the bus station. So I actually walked toward the counter and there was no one there. There were there were 4 different lines at the counter. And I walked to the second line, not the first, the second line of the counter, because there was a lady there and she was looking at me. She wasn't looking down or looking up. She was looking at me as if she was ready to receive me. So therefore I went to her. So I went to the lady. As I walked into the counter, she was actually looked at me in the face by myself, looked at me in the face, then looked at her colleague to the right, my left, her right, then looked back at me as if she didn't know what to do with me. But I went to her and I said, "Good afternoon. I would like to buy 2 tickets to go to Puebla." En español, pero yo dije en español. Yo dije a ella, "Buenas tardes, me gustaría comprar 2 boletos para un bus para ir a Puebla." And ella miró a mí, she looked at me, then she looked at her colleague, and then she waved on, was calling for a security guy at the entrance. I don't know why she's calling for the security guy, but she was calling for the security guy, waving, yelling, security, security, the security guy, but the guy was not in her line of vision. So she was calling, and I'm thinking, maybe she's asking if there was more space on the bus. But when you look at, I could see her screen, because her screen was kind of tilted towards me. In the screen, there is a layout of the seats of the bus. So I'm thinking, well, why not just look at the screen and it'll tell you if there was space on the bus or not. So then I asked her, is there a space on the bus? Is there space for the bus that's going to Puebla? And she said to me, hold on one moment. And then she was still trying to get that guy's attention. So I'm thinking, what's going on? Have no idea, right? So then the guy comes, and then the guy asks for an ID. But I'm thinking, why does that guy need our ID when she's the one at the counter? Why don't I just give her my IDs? So I said, okay. So I got our IDs, gave it to her, the lady at the counter who's actually going to do the transaction to issue me my ticket. She gives them to the security guy. So I'm thinking, what's going on? I have no idea why this is an issue, right? So I'm looking at him and looking at her like, what's going on? Is there a problem? And he looked at our IDs, which were our residence cards. He gave it back to my wife, and then she said, okay, you're good. What's your phone number? Put in the, she put in my phone number, and I bought 2 tickets. But in that whole experience, after she was about to issue me my tickets, I'm asking her, so if you did not need my ID to put my information into the system, why did you need my ID? Why did he need my ID? And she said, oh, no, that's just our process here. I've been on many buses here in Mexico. That's never been a process. If they ask for your ID, it's because they're going to input it in the system. Otherwise, they wouldn't ask you for your ID. But the reason why they do that is because they assume that we were migrants passing through Mexico, going towards the U.S.-Mexican border. So therefore, they were not going to issue us tickets if we were migrants. So discrimination, yeah, but it's not a big deal. But I wanted to tell you all that is because there will be cases where you will be mistaken as a migrant passing through Mexico, and you'll get stopped for your ID or your passport, right? This happened to me before, years ago, when I was traveling between Mexico City and Veracruz. No, it was between Puebla and Veracruz. So years and years ago, the bus, we reached a police check, and the police got on the bus. He didn't check everyone's ID, but when they got to me, he definitely checked my ID. So that is a thing here in Mexico, which is kind of crazy, right? Because I know that in some parts of the United States, especially along the border, if someone of authority from the government, whether it's the police or immigration, if they see someone that looks like they could be Mexican or from another country, they're going to stop you and ask for your ID as if you were someone else that may not ask you that. So, I mean, that's just the cost of living here in Mexico. So, yes, you will experience some discrimination here if you are spending a long period of time in Mexico or living in Mexico, but honestly, it should not be a big deal. And that usually happens more so in the small cities where they do not have a lot of foreigners passing through other than migrants, or they don't have a lot of foreigners passing through at all. And they would just assume that, hey, you're black, you're passing through our small town, you must be a migrant, you must be here illegally. Yes, they would assume that. But again, it's not a big deal. Show your passport, show your ID, and keep it moving. All right, well, that's all I got. Thank you for tuning in, Profe Gallo. Please give this video a like and share with your friends and family. Subscribe and come back for more videos on this channel. Peace.